Hey friends, attempt number 1000 of me trying to make a condensed video on my simple waste oil setup. This is for those just starting with vegetable oil and they kind of want an idea of how to start, where to start. Honestly, your tanks are your basics. Centrifuge, that should be like your number one thing. If you plan to run on waste oil, don't even waste time. Any diesels you have, get a centrifuge. That will be the best investment. The only regret you'll have is not getting one sooner if you don't do it right away. Now, what's my experience? Well, lots. Actually, the most impressive one isn't even here right now. We've got a couple of diesel Jettas. That's a 2003. We got another 2012 behind there. These Duramaxes here. We've got a couple of Cummins behind the house, like 3 or 4 of them. And everything up until I've got a buddy that runs a 2017 and it's not even deleted. He has a 2-tank system, so he just shuts it. He puts it back on diesel for the regen cycles and he has no problems. He said he's even ran it through a regen cycle on waste one time and it didn't like it very much, but he just had to go through another burn and then it was fine again, he said. But yeah, make sure you're deleted. Other than that, you're good. We've got an E70 BMW. That's 2007 to 2013 or 14, I think, BMW with a twin turbo straight 6 diesel. Ours is deleted. That thing runs on waste oil. My wife's on a 5-hour trip with it today again on waste oil. And no diesel, just vegetable oil, all single tanks. Not a single twin tank setup. Nothing like that. No heated setups besides, of course, your heated fast system. So I always put fast systems on all of my rigs that I'm going to run. And I always run the heater disc, which is right there, as you can see, between the filters. That would be the main investment I would tell people to run, is get a centrifuge. I mean, we've got like 10 or more diesels, so it's a lot of money for us. But if you've got one rig you plan on running on waste oil, invest in a fast system. If you're in a colder climate, invest in a heated fast system. The disc heater is another $150 or whatever over the fast. Fast systems are so easy to install on Duramaxes. Lots of videos and content on that. Any diesel can run on vegetable oil, or any waste oil for that matter, as long as it's clean. And there's people that'll disagree, but I'm beating mosquitoes to death with my phone here while I'm recording. If you have clean fuel, clean oil, you can run any diesel on it. For how long and how well, that is a different question. And I would encourage a case-by-case research. You know, you can go on the groups, the forums, there's Facebook groups, there's forums online, there's lots of questions that have been asked. Do your research. Most people will argue that the good old 12 valves, the 12 valves and the 7.3s are the best to run on waste oil, which the 7.3 and the 6 liter are the same. So there you have it. I used to run 12 valves. I have a bunch of those. Now it's all Duramaxes. I actually retired my old Cummins swapped rigs because the newer Duramaxes are nicer to drive and they're more comfortable and they're more practical. So I run mostly Duramaxes now. And then of course our little diesel Jetta and the BMW. I'd like to get me a nice, big 7-passenger SUV with a diesel in it, Duramax, Power Stroke, Cummins, whatever. I don't really care. But no such luck yet, but that's for a different video. So again, centrifuge, just buy one. If you're going to run on diesel, just buy one. If you don't want to buy one, but you want to practice, see if you can find somebody in your area that does have a centrifuge and has already done all this, because it's just not worth the hassle. Okay, let me rephrase. It is definitely worth the hassle to run a vehicle on waste oil. If you can't get a centrifuge, filter otherwise, and I'm getting to that. But if there's any way you can pull it off, I promise you the only regret you're going to have is not buying one sooner. I am not a dealer. I could not care any less. I'm way out in the middle of nowhere. I deal with vehicles, but I do not deal with centrifuges or whatever. I bought mine off of Chris Heil from WVO Designs, and he's got a bunch of videos on his YouTube at Not So Grand Garage. Kind of like, I think Stinky Pete's got one. I think he got one from PA Biodiesel. These are all on groups. Go on the groups, do your research. But anyway, pretty simple. If you're absolutely not willing or you can't afford it, I understand. Like I said, that's why this setup is so simple and basic. I'm broke and I'm lazy, honestly. This is a 12-valve transfer pump. Princess Auto in Canada, Harbor Freight in the US. I started with a goldenrod housing with a screen in it and then a 10-micron filter there. Get your oil. Find you a source. If you're going to do engine oil, of course, that's what I've got here. This is the goldenrod housing here. This is a filter, 10 micron. You can get them with a screen as well. You can order them online. If not, try your local hardware stores or any place that would sell filters. This is my automotive tanks here. I need to get a better setup, a tote. I actually scored that from a heater, from heating oil. It's actually diesel, basically, from, heating oil for a furnace. So I scored almost 800 liters or whatever of that. That's a good score. But anyway, settle it if you're not going to get a centrifuge, especially. If you have a centrifuge, you don't need to settle. Unless you have water and stuff. People still recommend settling, pour off the bottom. But for me, I know I've got no water in my stuff. I get it dry, and I pour it in. Get you a funnel, if you can, that's big enough to fit the strainer. It makes it so much easier. If you're not going to use a centrifuge, I would recommend finer screening than this, even maybe a bed sheet or something. Stick it in there. I pour my jugs. I get them from restaurants. Call around, ask around. You never know unless you ask. Try to get dry sources. The cleaner the better, of course. I pour it through there. I don't even let it settle, like I said. And then you would pump off the top if you can. Through your screen, pump, filter. And then you should be good. Run it on the old rigs. If you're going to run it on newer stuff like I do, I would strongly recommend centrifuge, right? This should be okay for 12 valves, maybe 7.3 power strokes, older diesels like that. But I run it on everything. It's where the centrifuge comes in. This will filter it 100 times as well as anything like this will. And I would recommend, like I said, a fast system, some good lift pump system. Some vehicles have to have a lift pump to survive. So anything with a CP4 and VP44s especially, those are the two that come to mind. VP44s and CP4s. If you're not sure what injection pump yours has, look it up. Sometimes you don't get the right answers online, but usually you can get the right stuff. So anyway, I then suck it. Now we're going on to the centrifuge setup. My centrifuge is sitting outside, right? We get to 40 degrees below freezing, about 40 degrees below freezing sometimes. It's not a common thing, but it does happen. Of course, I can stand on my oil when it gets that cold. It's all solid. And when that happens, then I start using heat, but I'll get to that. So I just use a little Mega Flint pump on Amazon, hooked up to a battery with another cheap Amazon trickle charger, set to the motorcycle setting or the continuous maintenance setting, and it works great. I've got that hooked up there, of course, my extension cords and stuff. This is a 6K heated centrifuge from Chris Hall at Not So Grand Garage. Like I said, he's a WVO Designs dealer, 3-phase power. He can show you how to set all that up. It's a pretty simple concept. And heater, of course, gotta have the heater, gotta have the booster cone. This is actually after, what have we got? Probably 100 liters, probably a couple 100 liters of vegetable oil. You can see I scooped off of there. And there's hardly any in here, actually. I'm going to clean the bowl anyway, but it didn't take much out in that. That little pump with the hose that I've got here with vegetable oil, the hose this long, I stick it in here. I start from the dirty tank, I fuge it into here, and then from there, I fuge it into my product tank. And here, I've just got, 120 volt, 20 GPM pump. Works great during the summertime. Used to have a filter on here, it just slowed it down too much or it wouldn't pump at all, so I left that out. I don't really know how well this is going to work during the winter yet. I used to just use a transfer pump like this with a heater. So the heater that I use is very simply a little heating element like this off of Amazon. I think that's a 2000 watt or maybe a 1500 watt. Just wired some wires to it, extension cord, and then I just plug it in. Nothing really to it. And then I stick it in my tanks. Be careful if you're going to stick it in here. You don't want to melt through your tanks, of course. So be very, very careful. But yeah, I'll stick it in there, warm it up for a few hours if I need to, and then I'll just stick the hose right in that area, fuge if I need to. If you're fuging into a tank too, that'll warm the whole tank as well. So if you can align your filling your vehicles with that, that works well. I don't do any gasoline until I don't mix them before I put them in the vehicle. So typically I'll just pull up here. And I don't do any mixing either. This is just a fuel tank. This is just gasoline. I'll pull up here. I'll put, 10% or whatever, depending. I'll do up to 20, 30% during the wintertime, gasoline. And then I'll pull up here and I'll top them off with vegetable oil. That's it. I don't do any mixing. I don't even bother mixing at all anymore. I used to swerve back and forth to try to mix it in the tank. Don't even bother, especially with the fast systems. They'll do the mixing for you. And take everything I say with a grain of salt. There's lots of guys that'll give me lots of hate for this and say, oh, you're going to ruin everything. And well, I've got lots and lots and lots of miles doing this already and no issues yet. They say you're not supposed to mix engine oils, automotive fluids with vegetable oil. Lots of guys have done it for years, never had any problems. I've done it, never had any problems. But there is guys that have done it and had major problems. So take it with a grain of salt. Maybe look into what fluids maybe don't mix or whatever. I don't mix them because it's pretty easy not to. I might honestly start mixing them soon because I don't really want to keep everything separate all the time. I don't have enough tanks for all that because I kind of need 1, 2, 3 tanks minimum for my whole setup because I want to do 2 passes. And then of course I'd have to have 2 separate tanks with pumps, and it's too much hassle. Like I said, I'm lazy. Most guys have a nice centrifuge setup with gravity feed and They've got nice valves going into their Fuge and everything. Again, I'm lazy. I should do that. Maybe one day I will, but I'm lazy. So like I said, Mega Flint pump, all the other hardware that you can get anywhere into the Centrifuge, and then your product hose there into whatever tank I'm pumping it into. Just lower, of course, because gravity feed, right? Otherwise, I'd have to find some way to pump it up. But anyway, I think that pretty much sums it up. I'm sure there's things that I didn't mention, and I'm sure there's things that I'm missing. But all in all, this is 3 times as long as I wanted the video to be, but it seems that after 100 tries, I'm tired of it. And I don't think there's really any good way of condensing it anymore. So, like I said, I'd recommend a Centrifuge. Make sure you've got the fluid clean. That's the main thing, right? Nice and clean. I would recommend at least 1 micron. If you don't have a Centrifuge, try to get you some way to filter it down to at least 1 micron, and you should be good. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. And yeah, I do my best to answer. If you have any rants or raves or complaints or roasts, feel free to leave them there as well. And hopefully this video helps somebody, and as always, may God bless you.